Welcome inside episode 632 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and the NHL season starts now for the Ottawa Senators. As we speak, they are at their annual golf tournament in Pillzy. The training camp roster has been released.
59 players in total, and I got a chance to see some of those guys boots on the ground scouting at yesterday's final Prospect Challenge game in Buffalo.
From prospects to leaders, they'll all be there, and the Senators have announced their official leadership group. We'll get into all that. Plus, a former member of the leadership group has called it a career after 25 NHL seasons. All that coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Tuesday, September 20th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like every video by clicking the thumbs up button and subscribing to the Locked On Senators channel. Be a friend, tell a friend. It's the hockey season, and now is the time to bring everyone in to what should be an exciting training camp full of lots of cuts. 59 players, Pillzy. It's back to the pre-pandemic levels of numbers because they smushed it down for a little bit, but now we're back, and it's going to be a wild couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, 59 players. We did our organizational value rankings with 64 players, so we covered a lot of these guys. Some new faces in here, though, but when training camp starts, I know we've mentioned this in different forms, different spin zones, but we're getting closer and closer to the regular season.
Hockey's back. How many times are we going to say that between now and October 13th when the Senators start the regular
Probably
season?
5 more times, yeah.
And they start the regular season in Buffalo. Let's start with that, Pillzy, because you were in Buffalo, boots on the ground yesterday for the third and final game, third and final loss of the rookie tournament. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I just can't believe I so confidently said I expect this team to go undefeated, and they came out with 0 wins. So we'll just let that sit there for a bit. But, however, it was nice to go to Buffalo. It was great to the little arena that we were at. I got to believe that's the Sabres practice arena. It's pretty much attached to the KeyBank Arena right there. Nice spot, a decent crowd. Tickets were only like $12, so I was already in Buffalo. Figured, of course, I'm going to go see the Sens if I have the opportunity. And a lot of the Sens executive staff were there, Ross. Wade Redden, Sean Donovan, Pierre Dorion, Trent Mann. All these guys were there getting a viewing in. And it was good to be able to see these guys up close. Like, it's so nice to be able to sit close to the glass. I got on the stream, and not a lot of upsides or positives. Let's just say that. Angus Crookshank, easily the best player for the Senators in that game. I mean, both his goals were absolutely sick. One of them a one-timer. The other one was a beautiful wrist shot. The goalie had no chance on neither of those. Other than that, I know I'm positive Pillzy, but not a whole lot of other positive aspects to report.
That Crookshank shot looked like it came from Collingwood all the way to Buffalo. He was right near the blue line there in the corner.
Oh, yeah. He was feeling it. And every time he hopped over the boards, he had energy. He was on a line with Tyler Boucher and Philip Daoust. So they were easily the top line that created the most offense. But the Sens got outshot. I forget the final numbers, but I think it was like 44 to 19. Yeah. Like, it was tough. They had no ozone pressure, no possession time. They were playing catch up the whole time. Robillard, the goalie, he was pretty much had to stand on his head. I know he allowed 6 goals, but for a kid like him to come in and have to face that many shots, I thought he did a decent job. So, disappointing prospect challenge in 2022 for your Ottawa Senators. But these games are more just so the executives can see what they got in certain players and to get guys back on the ice. Like, for Crooker, this must have been a great experience, right? Yes. Like, obviously, last year, very scary injury. He misses a whole year. This year, he comes back. He's healthy. He's better than ever. He was the best player in Game 3, absolutely.
Yes, he and Boucher had some nice little chemistry. Two buzzsaw type
Yep.
players I kept noticing. And yeah, Crooker's just got this like intense speed about him. Eh? Like that's probably the part. And it's great to see when knee injuries occur that his explosiveness was all good. Like you could tell. And he almost like picked up speed when he got the puck. It was awesome to see. Really enjoyed that from Crookshank. And it also gave him a new profile picture on Instagram with the A. It looks awesome. Love to see that. Big camp coming up for Angus Crookshank. And if you go to senators.com, you're going to have to really shuffle through these names. So your friends over at Sens Central on Twitter have made it nice and easy. So if you're listening to this, you can check it out when you're home. But if it's on YouTube, you can just take a peek as we're pulling up the forward lines. And yes, it is overwhelming to us as well. 33 forwards will be attending training camp. How do you want to run through this list? Like, do you want to go all left wing, all right wing, all center? Or should we just do this as lines and make it feel like it's basically like three teams?
I say we do it by lines. That
Okay.
just, once we get past kind of the Belleville lines, it's not like we like match these guys up chemistry wise or tried to create certain lines. It's just kind of where they slot in. But I think doing it line by line is the cleanest way to do it.
Okay, bear with us. And
Yes.
we have left the PTO and the amateur tryout invites at the bottom. There's almost two lines worth. There's 5 amateur and pro tryouts attending Sens training camp. So at the top, until they're not, they're the top line. And that's Josh Norris, Brady Tkachuk, and Drake Batherson. Then we've got Tim Stützle, Alex DeBrinket, Claude Giroux. Still honestly doesn't feel real to say that. I need to see them on the ice in the flesh. I'm hoping they're coming to Winnipeg, but I really doubt it. Pinto, I'm hoping will, and we think he will. Pierre Dorion mentioning that the 3 Nodak Sens are likely to be in the lineup next Tuesday. Shane Pinto in between Tyler Mott and Mathieu Joseph. Dylan Gambrell, Parker Kelly, Austin Watson, Mark Kastelik, Angus Crookshank, Igor Sokolov, Ridley Gregg, almost said Mark Craig, Jace Howerluck, and Roby Jarventi. Then we've got Ostapchuk, Lowdeen, and Boucher. Pillzy, take it from here.
And then we've got Rourke Chartier with Jake Lucchini and Scott Sabrin. Philip Daoust with Cole Reinhardt and Carson Latimer. And then these lines are kind of the PTOs and invitees here. Dal Cole with Brassard and Wedman. Vlad with Wakely and Mcdonald.
All right, lots of forwards. Who's one dark horse that you're looking for heading in to training camp?
Like to crack the NHL roster?
To impress. It's all relative to where they're going to finish up or where they're going to start the season. But outside of Crooker, because we already talked about him.
I'll start with my guy, Igor Sokolov. I mean, it can't be understated. He had a big offseason, very disciplined. He was working out. He was skating. He lost a lot of weight. He's looking good. He's looking like he's ready for a huge season after leading Belleville in goals in back-to-back seasons. This guy, he's knocking on the door for sure of the NHL. Will he get through and play a consistent role? I don't think so quite yet, mostly because just the NHL roster is so improved. Like you said, it's unbelievable that Alex DeBrinket and Claude Giroux are both on this team now. So that makes things a lot harder for Igor. But I really think he's poised to have a big season. And of all the Belleville guys, he's someone that could really, really fit perfectly on that third line kind of role. So I'll go with Igor as my dark horse to impress.
I like that. I'm going to go with Shane Pinto, more so with the injury. Like we saw it at the rookie tournament, didn't miss a beat, but I want to see him against NHL competition. Again, he was so good last preseason. My eyes are going to be glued to Shane Pinto and Ridley Gregg, a little honorable mention there. I want to see how he's bouncing back from the injury. It seemed like it was more of a precaution why he didn't play this weekend at all. So really excited to see those two pivots get going throughout this upcoming season. We're going to get into storylines of this upcoming season. We're going to hit a quick break. Then we're going to introduce you to the defensemen who will take part. The Senators are bringing 20 defensemen and 6 goalies to training camp. I mentioned the golf tournament's underway today, then medicals and physicals tomorrow. The first on-ice session is on Thursday. Then on Friday, groups will be split into 3. And then Saturday, Pillzy, a lot of these guys are going to be in action because the Sens don't play once. They play twice in Toronto, a 1 o'clock game and a 7 o'clock game. I don't know when the last time I've seen a split squad game. Fired up for all that coming up. But first, let's tell you about one of our favorite sponsors, Pills.
Oh, it's betonline.net. And Ross, I was at the Bills game last night, came home late this morning. So if I'm tired and I'm making mistakes, you know why. But I had a blast at the game, and betonline.net made it a little more interesting because the over hit in this game, and the Titans only had 1 touchdown. The Buffalo Bills went marching. They went rampaging. The herd was in full force. That's for sure. Bills Mafia.
Did you break a table?
I did not break a table. No, I saw some tables being broke. I saw the ketchup and mustard thing. They are absolutely crazy over there in Bills Mafia, and I'm sure a lot of them had a good time if they put some bets in on betonline.net because they have all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline.net is your number 1 spot for all your sports betting needs. It remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. Hockey is back, as we've announced, and basketball is around the corner. Baseball, the playoffs are real close. Some big games every single night. Boxing, UFC, golf, whatever your sport is, they got it. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Guys, it's betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pillsy. So, if you didn't hear, hockey is back. We've got Senators training camp coming up on Thursday on ice session. So we'll restructure these lines as they come out. It's going to be a typing bonanza. Who will break the lines first, Pillsy? What's your handicap on that one? Will it be Bruce Garriock? Will it be Kyle Bukauskas? Will Wayne Scanlon give us a little something to look at? I always love the race to who can write out all the lines, especially in training camp.
Yeah, that's going to be one to watch. There's a training camp storyline, Ross. That's huge.
Good tease. All right, before we get to storylines, let's get to the decor. I'll go with the top 3 and then take it from there. Pillsy, Shabbat, Zub, Sanderson, Hamonic. We know that's how it's going to start. DJ Smith has said as much. And then it gets a little bit more interesting. There's 2 spots for Brandstrom, Holden, and Zaitsev. I know what fans would like, and that's how we've put it here, Brandstrom, Holden, but I know the coach likes 22, so let's see how this plays out through training camp as well. All right, Hetherington we have as the other guy in our top 8. Pillsy, what's it going to look like down in Belleville?
We got Aspero with Thompson, Larson with Bernard Docker, Hamara with Gannett, Donovan and Bernard, Rubens and Roger, Romeo and Massacott.
Had to break up that Romeo and Roger pair, eh? From what you saw yesterday.
Yeah, look, I hate to really harp on the guys, but at least 4 of those goals were when they were on the ice. It just seemed very easy for the Buffalo Sabres to get through that duo, and sure, they're massive guys, but even with that wingspan and the physicality they can enforce, they weren't really able to really stop any Buffalo ozone pressure or transitions. So wasn't a big fan of those 2 together.
Yeah, so we'll see what they can do in training camp. Ben Roger, all eyes are going to be on him, man. With the way they kind of stepped up, all confident to take him, trade back, and then be like, all right, we got our guy. Long way to go. All right, in goal, Sens are bringing 6 goalies. Cam Talbot, Anton Forsberg, Mads Sogard, Kevin Mandolese, Antoine Bibeau, and Logan Fladell. I actually got to see Logan Fladell's first ever AHL game in Manitoba. He came in relief on the Saturday night. He's a backwards catcher, but we won't hold it against him. He signed to a 2-way AHL ECHL deal. So if that name surprises you at the bottom, I think everyone else were expecting to be there. Tell us, you made Mando late for an elevator. What happened there in Buff?
Oh yeah, we were at the hotel restaurant. The hotel, I think it's a Marriott that's attached to the arena. So all the executives were there and all the players, and Mando was heading for his elevator, and I saw him, so I was like, oh man, I gotta say hi to Mando. So I quickly went over. I was like, Mando, and the elevator opened, of course, right when I saw him, and he's like, but we had a quick chat. He missed his elevator. He said we'll catch up later. So we definitely got to get him back on the show there. But hey, we talked to Mando about his fashion and suits. He was looking sharp. I'll say that, a little tire pump for Mando. He was looking good.
Hey, that interview looked good. Everyone should go check that one out. Maybe undercover, but one of the best interviews we did all summer. Would you say?
Oh yeah, he just the chemistry with us. I mean, three tendies shooting the breeze.
How funny was it in that interview? I recall it so vividly. Like, you know how they always joke on Overdrive too, where it's like, yeah, you guys get it, where they talk about Jeff O'Neill and noodles, and then Brian Hayes sitting there like they clearly exclude him. But he was talking about goaltending. He's like, yeah, you guys get it. It's like, no, we don't have NHL contracts, dude.
Bro, I was a House League All-Star. To put some respect on that. Jeez.
Yeah, you guys get it. Yeah. No, not really. But hey, good guy, Mando. So we're excited to see him in training camp. New bucket looks great. Would like to see a little bit better goaltending the whole weekend long, but the decor certainly didn't help them out either. For more on the rookie tournament, you can head over to Twitter at Sens Central. We were live tweeting that yesterday. And final note, our friend Atleems Martian making it known that Tyler Boucher outscored Uri Slavkovsky, the reigning first overall pick. So for Habs fans, say 10th overall. Well, first overall is not a whole lot better. That's neither here nor there. Pillzy, storyline time after we got some stick taps to give out.
Big time.
Big stick taps. Zdeno Chara has announced his retirement. So has PK Subban and Keith Yandel, but in this market, that doesn't matter nearly as much as a guy who really grew into his own with the Ottawa Senators. I feel like we've spoken about Chara at length on different occasions, especially during the pandemic when we were really reaching into like the nostalgia factor, but it can't be overstated how incredible this career was. 25 NHL seasons. It spanned 2 lockouts. It spanned he played on the Islanders twice, 20 years apart. But with the Sens, it was the second longest tenure he spent with one team. I believe it was 299 NHL games. Of course, everyone outside of Ottawa will remember him most in Boston, where he was the captain, where he won Norris's and Stanley Cups. But he really became the player that he was in Ottawa.
Well, I'm just thinking now, Ross, does he now have more games with the Islanders than the Sens? Because
no.
He tacked on 72 more games.
No. I'll be so upset.
Yeah,
he was like, you think?
He played longer with the Islanders than you probably think to start.
Pillzy!
Yeah, sorry.
303. He played 4 more games.
I'm sorry, Ross, to do that to you, but we are known for being 100% factually correct on this show, so I have to keep that streak going. But
speaking, we do like to correct things when we realize it, though. Yesterday, I said that Parker Kelly was waiver exempt. That was a lie. The lie detector determined that was a lie.
I mean, I backed you up heavy on that, but I don't take myself too seriously. If you guys have followed my gambling advice, you know not to take too much of what I say to heart.
If you are looking for smart content to make you a better gambler, you came to the wrong place. But if you want to have a couple laughs and vibe with the fellas, this is the place to be.
Hey, wait, before we move on from Chara, though, let this sink in. Zdeno Chara played his first NHL game in the 1997-98 season. That is an insane amount of time. That's so long ago. 1,680 games. My goodness, the miles on this guy is absolutely insane. So I don't care who you're a fan of. I think every single hockey fan has the utmost respect for Zdeno Chara.
Well, and how about, I mean, that's well said. I should just kind of let that vibe a little bit. But I always pull up the same photo. I'm going to do it for the last time. Until he's announced. Until he's announced as a return to the Ottawa Senators. Imagine that. Somebody tweeted at us saying that Redden's still a part of the Sens organization, so Ottawa picked the right guy. Maybe not. But yeah, so this photo right here, it was from the Sens at Your Service dinner. But the only thing I really want to point out, 2002, and he was already an established NHLer. Pillzy, this was more than 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago.
Wow, yeah, Zdeno Chara, like the guy is an animal, and the thing I always kind of point towards, there's a reason he played up until he's 45. It's not a fluke. He meticulously keeps track of all of his workout programs. He has pencil and notebooks for every single rep he's ever done. I forget. I wish I could shout out the person that did the article because it was a great article, but they talked to Char during an off season and he showed them. It's like stacks and stacks and stacks of notebooks, and flipping through them, it's like Monday, August 10th, 2003.
Yeah, he's got the reps.
These reps, this weight, this much time. Like this guy was a beast for a reason. And they had Barzell on 32 Thoughts podcast, and he was saying, you cannot outwork Zdeno Chara. Like even at age 45, he's the first guy in the gym and the last guy out. Absolute beast.
Yeah, sounds like Yager, right? These Eastern European guys, Czechoslovakians, and I can say that because they were both born before the countries split. That's how long ago that was. I guess not too. I think that was like 35 years ago that they split. Neither here nor there, but. Scott Dunlop asking where you are. Well, in that photo, imagine we had an old school photo like that at the game. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. We already reminisced on that before. Now we got to get into storylines, and we're really looking forward to a few things about Senators training camp. If you missed our segment yesterday about the most overrated storylines, I've cut that up and put it as its own YouTube video, so you can go check that out on demand whenever you'd like. We'd also like to give a shout out to our newest sponsor on Locked On Senators, and the ad reads begin on October 1st, but we are so excited to welcome Shawarma Palace on the show. I brought up a nostalgic photo there. I also knew I posted them on Instagram a long time ago, so I scrolled all the way back. My 5th ever post on Instagram was Shawarma Palace saying the best place for shawarma this side of the Middle East, and 9 years later, they're the sponsor of Locked On Senators. So shout out Shawarma Palace, the only palace for shawarma this side of the Middle East. Unreal. I'm excited. We're going there when we both go to Ottawa.
I don't think I've been to Ottawa with you and not gone there. So like that's the thing. Like this is the perfect first local sponsor for us because it meshes so well. And the guys at Shawarma Palace, they say they're listeners of the show. So it's even better. Like it's just perfect mutual relationship. I love Shawarma Palace. Extra garlic sauce. Let's go. We were fired up to bring you Shawarma Palace ad reads. What an incredible sponsor.
I have to go to, before we get to the storylines, Claude Giroux is speaking to the media. And by the way, official, the Ottawa Senators have announced their leadership group. We knew it was Brady Tkachuk at captain. We knew that their alternate was Thomas Chabot, has been for years.
We knew it was going to be Giroux too. Who are we kidding here?
Yeah, and to tie it all together, Claude Giroux was just asked about Zdeno Chara's retirement. This is from Bruce Garriock on Twitter. Quote, "I'm happy he's retired. Playing against him was really, really hard."
I mean, that's fair. Like, imagine being in front of the net and just having Chara just doing his thing, just making life difficult for you. Yeah. That's got to get tiring. Oh man.
I mean, just ask Brian McCabe. That ragdoll will live on for years and years. So shout out Zdeno Chara, one of the all-time greatest Ottawa Senators. I could say, like, if you're making an all-time Ottawa Senators team, he's in your top
cracking
6.
That decor. Oh yeah,
he's in the decor. It's probably him, and we probably put him with Redden.
Yeah.
Carlson Mathot, and away you go. And that's if you're trying to keep pairs together. But I think even if you're just going best on best, he was ridiculous. It sucked. Like the year he left, he won the Norris.
Whoops.
All right after a quick break, we're going to finish up today's show with a lengthy list of storylines to watch for heading into this Ottawa Senators season. It's all coming up here on the Locked On Senators podcast. All right, you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Pillzy. Pilser. I was trying to go Pillzy, Piller all together. That was
Pilsner,
awesome.
the Pilsner.
A couple Pilsners. Hey, if you would like to sponsor the show and you have a brewery, we're looking for a postcast sponsor because that's all coming back. We got the postcast. We've got Locked On Atlantic Division crossovers. And this upcoming weekend, the final weekend, episodes 9 and 10 of Behind the Blog La Brigade. I went on their show. Didn't realize Dorian was going to be on the same show. So my French is on the hot seat, 100%. But we're excited to have La Brigade, the francophone voice of the Ottawa Senators. They're going to be on. And Sens Chirp, the absolute OG. When I thought of this, I thought of Sens Talk and I thought of Sens Chirp as the two guys we needed to get on this series. So all that's coming up. Pillzy, what is your number one storyline heading into Senators training camp?
Yeah, there's a couple that I kind of like tossed around. I think for me, one that no one's talking about that I'm going to be very intrigued, maybe in terms of like magnitude of how much it'll affect everything. It's not as huge, but I am so intrigued to see how the PK units are going to line up here. And I kind of went because looking at Ottawa Senators PK units, I've got the stats right here actually. So they've lost a lot of their, well, I shouldn't say a loss, but Nikita Zaitsev was their number 2 guy with 174 shorthanded time on ice total. And then Connor Brown was right after him. Formanton was 5th. Nick Paul was 6th. And then 9 and 10 were Josh Brown and Victor Mete. So they've lost a lot of the guys that logged massive PK minutes for them. So I'm very intrigued to see how these units are going to shape out. I did some mock units here, Ross. You want me to read them out and you can react?
Yes.
Preparation Pillzy. Look at me go. So for the first unit, I got Shane Pinto, Tyler Mott, Nick Holden, and Artem Zub. How do we feel about that?
I feel good. I feel good.
Okay. Second unit, Dylan Gambrell, Austin Watson, Travis Hamonic, and then this was a tough. I didn't really know where to go with the fourth guy for the second unit, but I went Eric Brandstrom because he is he was the next up defenseman after Holden if you take out Zaitsev, Brown, and Mete. And look, Brandstrom's he's got to find a way to make himself useful. Sounds bad, but he's got to find a way to set himself apart from other defensemen because Lassie Thompson, JBD, those guys are right there. They're waiting. And if he doesn't really make an impact, I don't know what's going to happen here. So I put him on that second power play unit. Let's see if he can really step up. PK unit. So that's how I got him lined up there.
I was going to say PP. I don't have a problem with having Brandstrom running the point, even on the first, but we know it'll be the second unit for him. But I just don't want him on the PK. I just see him standing in front of the net against another team's version of Brady Tkachuk and it not going very well with a couple second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth opportunities banging away once the initial
Who else
shot.
do you put there, though? Like
I probably just put the second pair there. I put Sanderson Hamonic as my pair.
Okay. I thought about putting Sanderson there, but I kind of hemmed and hawed, and I was like, you know what, Brandy's got to find somewhere to fit in, so I put him there. But I'm definitely willing to swap those. Yeah,
so that would be my look, and it leads perfectly into my first storyline, and I'm gonna stick with a theme here to begin. But my first one is, how comfortable does Jake Sanderson look playing in the NHL right away? That's so important. Yeah. This decor is so thin beyond Shabbat and Zub. It's very scary when you look at the expectations that Pierre Dorion has kind of set with the moves he made up front. But they need Jake Sanderson to be a top 4 defenseman right away. And that's a lot to ask for a kid who just turned 20 in July. Like that's a big shoe to fill. And it's if there's someone to do it though, is it not Jake Sanderson?
Definitely.
He is him. So let's see if he can be that. But my eyes are going to be glued to Jake Sanderson for the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, basically until he really cements himself as a full-time NHLer. I'm going to be really curious to see how he starts his career. So that's my first storyline. And we'll do it kind of snake draft style because I really need to focus on this battle at training camp. Lassie Thompson versus JBD versus the Vets. Can those 2 first-round picks push Nick Holden, push Travis Hamonic, push Nikita Zaitsev to be better? We know that the right side of the D-core is probably the weakest part of this team, top to bottom. They have 2 first-round picks. What do you do in the first round? You draft guys who you hope 3-4 years down the road can be a part of your NHL team. It's go time. It's 3 and 4 years since Lassie and JBD have been drafted, and they're not even that far apart in age because JBD's a late birthday and Lassie's an early. I don't care who it is. One of those guys needs to come in and steal a job. If not steal, make it extremely hard for them to be set down. So those 2, and I don't know whether I'm putting them against each other or against the vets. Probably the vets, because I want them to push and elevate the guys who should be in the lineup on opening night. And maybe one of them sneaks in. But JBD and Lassie, that's a big storyline for me. And again, the D-core is the big question mark. So I decided to pick my first 2 from that D-core.
Yeah, that's fair. I personally think you got to put a bit of an asterisk on their development with the whole COVID
I'm not
here. So
I'm not mad at them for how long it's take, but like now's the time.
Yeah, I see both of them still playing majority of their time in Belleville, unless something really terrible happens, like it has happened the last 2 seasons to start. If that's how things start off, then the hot seat starts getting warmer. So then you got to have one of those guys come in and try to at least stabilize things if they can, which again, asking these young kids on defense to stabilize things is a tough task. So that's definitely a good storyline there. My second storyline, we talked about this a little bit, but it's going to be the third line for me because Alex Formenton, notable player, not on the 59 players invited to training camp, still without a contract. Obviously, things with the Hockey Canada lawsuits are still ongoing. We don't know anything more than we have the last couple of weeks, so that's kind of all we can really say there. We'll say more when more comes out.
We can point people towards the conversation we had with Ari behind the blog, because it discussed that it's less like, not to diminish it, but less the situation in its whole and more the macro of like how to change the culture in general. But I thought that was a really good conversation. So for more on it, we'll point you to that for now because nothing's come out. But yeah, he wasn't on the training camp roster, but you didn't expect him to. Brady Tkachuk wasn't listed on the training camp roster last year. He's not under contract from the team. So with him out, though, it certainly makes it a little more interesting. Although Tyler Mott, I'd say, has the inside track.
Yeah, and that's what we've already discussed. But I still think, like we talked about it, Igor Sokolov, Angus Crookshank, Victor Lowdeen, like those are prime third line guys. There is an open spot there, like, or at least there's a spot to be battled for there. I'll put it that way because, yeah, like you mentioned before, Tyler Mott on the fourth line would be perfectly fine. That's kind of his usual role, so I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think it would be very effective. So that's what I'm going to be looking at is that third line and kind of the sidebar to that third line, which you also already mentioned, Shane Pinto. He's coming back from missing pretty much an entire year. He was slotted as this team's second line center for 2 years. He didn't have the opportunity to fully fulfill that due to injury. How can he bounce back? How is he going to mesh with Matthew Joseph and whoever wins out for that third line left wing battle? That's where I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, really excited for that. My final training camp storyline to follow, and it might sound simple, but it's going to be oh so fun to watch. How does Tim Stützle fit with Alex DeBrinket and Claude Giroux? It's a big change. You're going from 2 new wingers to guys you've never played with and guys who you probably haven't even seen much of. Like Timmy's played Chicago, twice in his career? And both this past season?
Yep.
I mean, there's video, but getting out there, it's been great that those guys got to Ottawa early enough that, I mean, Giroux's already been here. Good local boy.
He's home.
He's home. So it's going to be great to see how this off-season informal skate sessions have built a layer of chemistry, but we know it's going to take a while, and I'll be Pillzy preaching patience here and say, if it doesn't work for a game, you don't break them up. I want to see them at least a 10-game sample size together before I do anything crazy.
Yeah, and I have a feeling anytime you get Alex DeBrinket, Tim Stützle, and Claude Giroux in the same sentence, good things are going to happen. So
Hey, the Leafs have looked good on paper for a decade almost, and they haven't done anything. So I'm hoping that this paper
I
translates
can't believe
to the ice.
you even tossed that as a comparison. Get out of here with that.
Just
Get out
saying.
of here. My final one, I'm going to go with Zach Ostapchuk. It's going to be interesting. He was injured. He's not played the back half of the rookie challenge, or prospect challenge, I should say. And it's NHL or bust for him. So the Ottawa Senators, they were quick to give him a contract after he was drafted. He had a massive year in the dub. He had a really good showing at the World Juniors. And let's see if he can kind of fight and battle to get that nine game sample to get a look here. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. It's too bad he can't play in the AHL, but that's going to be, I'm not expecting him to crack the NHL roster. Like I mentioned, there's other guys that definitely have the inside track, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle Zach Ostapchuk moving forward.
Yeah, and he's listed as injured from his, I think it was the second game, against Montreal. Left, did not return. Kyle Mcdonald is also listed as injured. The invitee, who I thought was pretty solid even yesterday. So I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know when the injury occurred, but a pretty strong forechecker. I want to see him get an entry-level contract. He's a guy who can still go up and down, obviously, and I'd like to see that. But the injuries don't stop there. Victor Lowdeen is also listed as injured. He's a guy who will certainly draw some attention if he's in the lineup. Like his first training camp with Ottawa, coming over from Sweden at the end of last season. So we'll be interested to see that. And then Zachary Massacott, no update after he was pretty much knocked out in that fight against who cares what that guy's name is. But we're hoping the best for Massacott. Hopefully he can do all right. Another invitee. So credit to the invitees for putting on a good enough show to be invited to Senators main camp. We're very excited for this season to get started. Any other final notes before we go, Pillzy? I think those storylines, we pretty much covered a lot of what fans are thinking. We put out on Twitter at Sens Central just a minute ago, who's your number one storyline? What is your number one storyline heading into training camp? Kyle Kachuk writing, wondering if there's going to be a move on D. And we touched on that yesterday, funny enough. And we also touched on the goaltending situation as well. With Formanton, we wait and see. But it will make training camp a little bit more interesting here as we go. And Pillsy, hockey's back. Like I'm looking, the Sens are tweeting out photos at the golf tournament. Hockey is officially back.
Yep, absolutely. And Ross, one final thing before we wrap up. And as I'm teeing this one, I'll let you get your Twitter fingers up and we can pull it up. Anton Forsberg, new mask. Ooh. Very interesting. If you could pull that up and share the screen, Ross, so we'll get it up here for the good people. But what the first thing I'll say is love the gold cage. The gold cage really pops, and he's got some similar notes to his usual mask. He's got the cartoon dog, and he's got his kids on there as well. And I think it looks sharp. Like I like what he's done here, and but I want to see him wearing it on the ice. That's the telltale if it's a good helmet or not. But so far, I'd say I approve of the new mask. How about you?
I like it. I want to see it with the uniform, just like you said. What do I not love about it? I think the layers, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. Like with the logo at the chin, the logo at the top, the lines through it, then the caricature. Is it a caricature or just a drawing, I guess, of his two kids? I love the idea of having, family on there. Yeah. I need the story behind this dog. But to me, my favorite part of this mask, the dog's eating a beaver tail and is wearing skates. So he's out for a rip on the canal. Like, It doesn't get any better than that. Like, I would have almost said, because he has the logo at the bottom, I would have almost said, and I've got it on one of my buckets back there. But if he's on the canal, the dog, then why not have the big Peace Tower and Parliament Hill right in the background of the top, right? I think it would have played in to the Ottawa aspect there with the beaver tails and the canal. But I'm just hoping that it's a shiny gold cage. I think it's more likely it's going to be matted. But last year, his cage was like yellow. So this is a better color than last year's cage. But I'm still waiting for someone to bring back the Ray Emery like sparkly gold cage. I think that's going to be awesome. Shout out Dave Gunnarsson, same guy who did Mando's helmet. He did Sogard. That's one busy guy. If he's doing it all himself, I'm sure he's got a whole team now. But love the mask. Great. Glad you brought that up. Hashtag goalie friendly show. Stoked to see Anton Forsberg. I know that yesterday I said my most overrated storyline was like which goalie can grab the number one job. But it is important that they're both playing well. So I hope that they're pushing each other. I just don't think that there has to be a one period. There can be a 1A, 1B situation.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I also think Cam Talbot, I don't know when he spoke to the media. I think it was a couple days ago, but the quote that 1200 put out is Cam Talbot, healthy competition is always good. What do you think Bill Guerin thinks when he sees that quote? Like, hey, we brought in Fleury for some healthy competition and you got pissed off. Now you're saying healthy competition's good. What's going on there? Obviously, that's kind of like tongue in cheek, but I just thought that's the first thing I thought of seeing that quote. But hey, the battle between him and Forsberg is going to be a good one. And I think it's such a blessing to have two veteran guys, I should add, that you feel confident in. So, love the Cam Talbot pickup.
Very, very well said. Okay, to end off today's show, to bring it full circle to the rookie tournament after the third game, Trent Mann, Senators assistant GM, still getting used to saying that. You know him more as the head scout, but Trent Mann, assistant GM, spoke to the media, and here are the players that he singled out when asked about the weekend. In order, Angus Crookshank went on a great little rant about how awesome it is to see him healthy and thriving. Then he
before you move on from Crookshank, and I wanted to add this in later, his leadership was very apparent to me. Like I moved to sit behind the Sens bench because I wanted to get an idea how's the bench going and stuff. Crooker was the guy pumping guys up. Crooker was the guy. He was pissed off at the refs. He was yelling at the refs a lot. Crooker was the guy that was going to them in their little scrums, trying to get info, what's going on. Like, the leadership qualities were 100% there. So just wanted to add in that little bit of info that Crooker as a leader, definitely on point.
Love that. Trent Mann had pretty much the same sentiment there. Then he pointed out the guy who was wearing the C, Max Gannett, but also said like he's the quiet type. So they almost wanted to put a little pressure on him as the leader of this rookie group to be a little more vocal. So he singled him out as a guy who he really liked to see this weekend. Then he continued on afterwards and gave a little stick tap to Philip Daou, Tyler Boucher, and then Jorian Donovan was the last guy. Would that kind of go hand in hand to what you saw on Monday?
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with Philippe Daoust, but I'll be honest that my bias, I was really focused on Boucher and Crooker anytime they were on the ice, so maybe I just wasn't focused on him. And Donovan, for a kid that young and not really like a big kid, for him to be playing up against these players is a big deal for him. Like him and Hamara, those are OHL guys. Like they look at, and not to be down on them, like that's just literally
they're 18.
Like they are in the OHL, and it was very apparent that this was kind of a step up for them and playing up against bigger, stronger guys, faster as well. So I thought he played good though.
Thomas Hamara, check. When that photo I pulled up of me and Chara was taken, neither of those kids were born.
Yeah, there you go. That just shows you. Like Hamara really looked like a young kid out there. But I thought there was a couple instances like where I love Hamara's game is him moving the puck up ice. Like he's so good in transition. Yeah, so that I was excited to see.
Awesome. We're going to continue with more storylines tomorrow. Plus, it's fitness testing day. Number one, stay healthy. No Pajot situations this year, please. God. What a bummer that always is. But the leadership core on this team is set, and now it's time for the fun to begin. Locked On Senators will have you covered 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 this week because we got them behind the blog. Stay tuned for our YouTube for exclusive content coming there. As bonus, we've got the Atlantic Division previews, as I mentioned, and a whole lot more. And be a friend. Tell a friend. The subscriber count just continues to grow. It really helps us out and makes us even more motivated to continue and get the postcast going back. It really does mean a lot and go a long way. Thank you so much to Shawarma Palace as well. We're excited to partner with them. If you have a small business and want to get their name out there, shoot us a message. You can reach me through our business contact on our YouTube page. We'd be happy to discuss with you a way for mutually beneficial partnership. Pillzy, you already had your last word. Anton Forsberg's bucket, great point to bring up. We'll be back tomorrow with a whole lot more. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.